So welcome everyone to another episode of Crypto Convos with your host, Vince Berk. With me today, I've got Ricardo Sanz from Evolutio, who is our partner in the Iberian Peninsula. Ricardo, would you give a brief overview of yourself and your role and what Evolutio does?
Yeah, thank you, Vince. So my name is Ricardo. I'm a telecommunications engineer, with 20 years over in experience in the telco and cybersecurity market. I actually started off my career in BT in London, stayed there for 3 years in strategic in the mobility arena. And then I moved into the strategic business unit for 10 years back in Spain, working on global deals, ICT, outsourcing deals. And most lately, in the past 5-6 years, I moved into the direction of cybersecurity business unit in first BT Spain and secondly Evolutio. Because Evolutio at the end of the day is a spin-off of BT Spain in 2020, during the pandemic, I would say, where we retain most of our assets and people and customers. And we built a company around 350 million in Spain, 1,200 employees, basically serving the global customer headquartered here in the Iberian Peninsula. So yeah. That's it, basically.
And so you're now leading the cybersecurity business unit at Evolutio. Do you sort of, if you had to characterize the transition that a lot of your customers that you've served over the years have made, how has cybersecurity or the focus on cybersecurity changed, would you say?
Yeah, I think there's been many changes, both in the technological arena, the cyber threats itself, and also the regulatory changes across the different geos, right? I think one of the things that we changed and we've seen lately is increased investment in cyber. I mean, as an example, here in Spain, we just on last Friday, 24th, there was an announcement on the local government, Spanish government in Spain, for a plan called Retech. This is a 150 million investment in the Spanish Digital Agenda 2020-26. And this is around 15 initiatives from the agro to fashion to health. And one of the key topics of investment is cybersecurity. So there are investments, there are things moving the ball on cybersecurity. The other thing is data protection. I would say GDPR was really milestones on this. But the different regulatory environments are changing. More people are looking at being the compliance and different frameworks to work in a cybersecurity space. And I think the last one is the threats. The threats itself that we see in the news that people are really paying attention to. The impact of different ransom and different cyber incidents are critical aspects for many companies. So all of this is making a new work, a new paradigm around cybersecurity.
Would you feel, sort of in terms of what your customers are seeing, that the renewed or the increased focus on cybersecurity, this is of course like you provide services, right? So it's an outsourced, right? Like the customer is saying, help me with this, right? And you're seeing that because you've turned it into an entire business. Do you feel like before that the customer had no cybersecurity sort of acumen and now they're thinking about it, or were they like doing it themselves and now they've realized that they better go to the experts of that? What do you think? What do you think it is?
I think it's all down to the maturity of the customers themselves. I think many customers had, as I said, regulatory departments looking at the compliance. The other were looking at more, different controls and technologies around cybersecurity. Others were looking about the security operations themselves, and they come to a final conclusion whether they need to, increase that level of maturity, because also the level of threats and risk exposure is growing. So they need to leverage these, functions, the controls, the investment, and they need to get to a point where they can feel more confident and mitigate the risk. So at the end of the day, it's driving the market, this situation.
Yeah, the regulatory, but also the evolution of the threat. Like as people, as fewer people click on phishing links and become smarter, the adversary will necessarily evolve, and right, your customer will have to become better at defending themselves. So let me ask about the move to cloud and data center infrastructure that we're seeing a lot of customers do, right? Because the certainly one thing that, in the old days when I first started in cybersecurity, we had one network and there was one wire that came into that network, and we had one firewall, and that's we had like essentially an enclave, right? Like you try to protect the corporate resources as best as you could. Today, it's very different. Organizations are distributed; they're moving to the cloud. People are working from anywhere. I know that Evolutio provides that assist, right? Cloud and data center services for their customers. That necessarily changes the attack surface for you. How's that sort of impacted your ability to secure your customers?
Yeah, that's a key element for us and our own strategy as Evolutio, because we define ourselves as helping customers to migrate to the hybrid scenario multi-cloud environment, right? So many customers are moving from the on-prem into the public cloud. Not all applications, because it's very difficult, but they're into this way, right? So moving to the cloud and manage the data centers can bring a lot of flexibility, scalability, but also many challenges for organizations, right? And this is where we, as a company, trying to help customers. So some of the things that we see in this move is really loss of control, right? So people were used to manage their own infrastructure, therefore Active Directory, domain controllers, firewalls, or all the perimeter around the application and the data itself. So now it's all moving into the cloud. So they have hybrid scenarios where all the procedures and policies that they had implemented into the on-prem, they need to translate that into a hybrid scenario, right? In that sense, also new threat vectors, things like misconfiguration, the insider threats, attacks on shared infrastructure. And when I talk about shared infrastructure, is also the need for shared responsibility, which is a clear topic we are all talking about with the cloud and providers and the public cloud providers, right? Whether we need to secure only the infrastructure, the system, the operating system, whether we need to go into the application layer, all these shared responsibilities, something which is, surprisingly, is still not clear for many customers. And the other two topics I would say is complexity. So, all the security controls, the threat monitoring you were doing around your data, your applications, your users, how they connected to your applications. Now it's complex, and it's more complex because the teleworking, whether you're accessing your data from a third party device, from a different year, from wherever, it's the application in a public environment. This is also providing more complexity and also providing more difficulties around monitoring your security incident, right? And the other thing is that we need to pay a special focus on things like vulnerability scanning, identity, and access management. It's not only the users, the employees, the party, it's also your own insiders, the people that are managing, are providing access management to your applications. Those are the people that you need to look first and pay attention to.
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing you say, because like complexity has been is always aggressive. The thing always happens in technology, right? Is that as we get new capability, that capability helps us do things we weren't able to do before, but it doesn't necessarily make it any less complex, right? Like it seems that the level of expertise needed to properly operate a digital enterprise and the services that go with it keeps on growing and evolving. And I think what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is look, if you're going to rely on us to to build this complex infrastructure out, security isn't sort of off on the side. Like security is like part of that fabric, right? Like identity access control, but also right, like the platform upon which it is built, right? There's a certain amount of complexity involved in that, and you cannot secure it unless you understood it. Well, if you went ahead and built it, right, your ideal, you're the right party to also think about securing that infrastructure. I think what you're saying.
Yeah, it's part of your business. We normally say security is to enable your business, not to be a blocking point on your strategy to pursue your business objectives. Yeah,
and I think I've seen more than enough of that in my career, where a very well-intentioned security approach would basically make it really hard for the people to do their jobs. And then what do people do? They start working around the cybersecurity, right? Like they found, they start emailing documents and they start doing things that, bring it outside of your control and essentially make the security much worse. So let's move on. So in terms of you service customers across the range, right? Like I know that you have small business, large business, government, etc. Like when it comes to especially small business, what are like the top 3 factors that small business should consider with regards to cybersecurity? Like what are the 3 things they really should be thinking about?
Right. If I had to summarize the 3 main, things that a small business will, need to look at is especially, risk. So what is critical for you? Understand where your assets, where is your data, where is the valuable information that you're managing. This is, risk exposure. Understand it. And once you classify, understand the risk, then you can secondly implement security policies on procedures. So I think one of the key elements which is lacking from the small businesses is that there are no procedures at all. There is no nothing to look at, the procedures side. Normally you don't follow the procedures. It's good to have procedures. It's good to have procedures around password management, access control, where is your data backup, and especially be ready for an incident. At least, have a phone number you need to call, you have clarity around who you need to call to when you have an incident. And the last 3rd point, which is the one that many of the restrictions about budget small business are looking to, is employee training and awareness. So I understand many CISOs of small business which say, look, I have a reduced budget for cybersecurity. So the way I can reach is better mitigation of my risk is through training and awareness. So you need to launch these programs, understand roles, responsibilities, understanding, phishing, how report incidents from the employee point of view. I think those 3 points, I would say, the more important ones.
Yeah. And do you feel so? Because that that basically echoes, right? Like everyone's sort of security journey, right? Like the basic awareness, to incident response, to compliance even. You feel this is different for large enterprise and like say government, or is it like, really that's the starting point? So it just gets more nuanced and specific as the organization gets larger.
I think the basics are similar to any company, to be honest. Whether it's a one person company to thousands of millions of person companies, is more about scale, I would say.
Yeah.
So obviously, your big company, you could be subject to advanced threats, and more sophisticated attacks, which to be ready, and you to have as a larger security operations and department. And the second one I would say is regulatory compliance. Is not the same to be a big financial institution to a small a small company. I would say, especially in Spain, we have also some important aspects about regulatory. We have our national department, which has been looking a lot, especially in the public administration, into being compliant with the national schema of cybersecurity, which is helping public administrations to go through that path and get this certification, and also encouraging and providing tools and I would say resources as well to smaller companies to be compliant and have a certain degree of maturity in terms of being compliant with this framework. I think obviously budget will be different as well. That's why you've got more sophisticated also tools and security controls to mitigate the risk. But as I said, basics is very similar. You need how to comply with the basics. It's different scale. It's very, very different regulatory environments, and at the end of the day, different type of attacks, which also for big institutions.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I'll sort of point out in this is that when we're talking about security, managed security operations, one thing that when I was still a researcher that we always noticed was very powerful about using managed security operations is you see sort of what's going on in each of these customers. And so you kind of end up with like a certain amount of situational awareness or a certain amount of tribal knowledge, if you will, about what is out there and what is running around, which phishing campaigns are happening, what malware is running, and you see things on one customer, you can apply it to another, right? Like it's really at the core like a specialization that that drives an enormous amount of value there. Good.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah. No, I mean, I bet you see that. If I say like you'd be like, yeah, of course, it's all over the managed security operations center. So we're a cryptography company. We do a lot of cryptographic management, cryptographic discovery for people, and I want to touch on cryptography very specifically as it comes to cybersecurity. So, in the old days, we just had stateful firewall and that was it. But today we have a lot of different technologies that decrypt traffic to do analysis. This includes your SD-WAN, because an SD-WAN often has an ability to decrypt, understand what the type of traffic is inside there, re-encrypt, and what have you, and proxy the traffic. Next generation firewalls do the same, right? Like they're essentially a proxy that take a look at the data contained within the packet stream. And we even see this with some performance analysis products, right, to try to understand sort of response times and what have you. All of these things require there to be a trusted vendor that can decrypt traffic, and that also requires the organization to have like a certificate authority, proxy certs and what have you. Some organizations see this as an increased risk. Other organizations see it as a way to decrease risk. What are you hearing? What is your opinion on this matter?
Yeah, I mean, inspecting traffic and passing through an element like the firewall, where you need to decrypt it so you can, make the choice at the end of the day, can introduce a lot of challenges, I would say, and risk, right? I mean, first one is the performance itself. You have an element which is a critical element, whether it's on the perimeter on-prem, or whether it's on the cloud, or whether it's in a third-party platform, because now you have firewalls, part of the third-party platforms and vendors itself. So performance and particularity with high demanding applications like video or file sharing is an issue itself, right? Then you have like typical privacy concerns, right? You are decrypting, you're inspecting sensitive information like personal or financial data, which is going through that. So is that compliance with GDPR or other regulatory elements in the different years? This is another topic which is causing some concern, and complexity itself as well, because as I said, it's an element which I would say like most of the traffic is going through that. And the last one I would say is that we're using protocols and aspects of encryption, which are, would say, being threatened by the quantum itself, right? So are you ready for quantum computing, which is the next topic? We're using this since 25-30 years ago, the IPsec, TLSL, SSL, all these protocols which need to be revisit, I would say. So this is an element which all the next generation firewalls and elements where most of the traffic is going through jet. I mean, like 70% of the traffic is going just through firewalls, whether in-prem, in a third-party platform or on a cloud service or public cloud. It's a key element yet that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, I think I'll echo what you say there, because this is, I mean, we've partnered on this in the past, but the thing that I feel we've seen in terms of cryptography evolution, right? It's like we had a bunch of protocols, and those protocol, and ciphers, and then they became insecure or like weaker, and then like we had an evolution of that, and then we had an evolution of that, and now we're on TLS 1.3, and then not everybody's got it implemented. And we're starting, the quantum computer, but the quantum computer is not the only threat, right? Like we're seeing many other threats to cryptography, and sort of the way we've handled cryptography, I think, is very ad hoc. Over the years, just okay, make it this much better, right? Like, and I think we're starting to get to a point where if you are, as a provider, now responsible for the security of your customers, that managing cryptography in a more wholesome manner, where you can set minimum standards and you can set redundancies, is going to become, I think that's sort of where the future is going. That'd be my guess on that, right?
Yeah, definitely the future is there, and we need to step prepare for that.
And I think, yeah, so I think that's we'll keep the finger on the pulse on that one. Another sort of topic I wanted to touch on with you is something that I used to see quite a lot, and still actually today. And I've been on the security through visibility side of life for a very long time. Like in terms of sort of if you've been an incident responder, one thing that's very important is that you have the data to actually do the incident response investigation with, right? You have to want to figure out who was where, when they were on the network, where they were on the host. And I still find many organizations that will gladly invest in tons of antivirus products, EDR, NDR, firewalls, and sort of like the protection devices, but have almost nothing in terms of visibility and like log collection and telemetry collection. Sort of, if you had to say that, like how should one invest, right? Like if you had $100 to spend, how should one invest between sort of that play between protection and visibility?
Yeah, right. As you say, value for money, right? You are $100. No, I think you're right. I think visibility, and when we talk about detect, respond, I think it's visibility. Be ready for what is critical, what is more effective, what you can do to prevent an incident, right? I think that's the key point. I would say in terms of prevention, still things and investing in technology like firewalls and access control, encryption. Regularly vulnerability scanning and assessment and doing, red teaming or penetration testing. It's something which is, I would say quite normal in big companies, right? But can you, be sure that you can early detect when you have threat monitoring or threat intel around that, when it is a false positive. There are so many information and data, unstructured data that companies are being difficult to and struggling to detect real threats, which is something many companies are suffering from. And at the end of the day, you are not ready, or you are not prepared to identify that threat when it comes along. The impact and the things that we do minimize your impact. It is something which you can be really a problem, because reducing downtime or just sensitive information exposure or even financial potential losses is something which is very difficult when you're impact. So at the end of the day, I would say, and you mentioned visibility, being ready for really detection and response.
Yeah, and being able to do that incident response when the moment comes. So let me touch on sort of a subject that I spent some years on, which is cyber hunting, right? Cyber hunting is sort of the art of like hunting for the threat. Like, you don't have evidence necessarily, but like go in and try to find, whatever may be wrong. Is this sort of, if you had to share sort of like your thoughts around it and like what, how companies should consider that activity, like, what is your feeling around that?
I mean, threat hunting is a big topic. I face many RFPs process of purchase processes in companies where they really are looking for threat hunting, but they don't put their resources available to do a real threat hunting. One of the things that we we normally face is, I want you to have a couple of people part of your cyber SOC or threat hunting activities, but they don't provide information about the environment, right? So how you can do threat hunting, you identify potential areas of weakness or where you need to prioritize, right? This is, for me, one of the things that we are not facing in the right way. The other topic, for threat hunting critical is threat intel, right? So you need to know about what on attack patterns and tactics, and what is really available in the market, and this is really something you need to leverage in a very smart way. Analyzing logs data with a threat intel is not really valuable. It's not really a big deal. And at the end of the day, the big advantage of threat hunting is be in advanced position against a potential incident. And for that, you need to create and develop the hypothesis which narrow and identify potential areas of really weakness. If you look at configurations, turn-in, thresholds, something like that, it's not really doing threat hunting. It's another thing. It's configuration, is security ops, is whatever you want to call it, but you're not doing threat hunting. The threat hunting need to look at this hypothesis on the basics of your risks, your threats, what is happening through your environment. For me, that's threat hunting.
No, and I think you're pointing out something really, really key that I think a lot of organizations don't understand. If you're gonna go threat hunt, well, first of all, like look for the people that really know the network, right?
Yeah.
And that have like a really good idea of the technologies, because you want them to very quickly be like, oh, that's expected, that's unexpected, right? Because that's their decision, right? So you're looking for seasoned people. And the other thing I think you're saying that I really agree with is, if you're gonna do threat hunting, like don't make these people just like, okay, he's also responsible for incident response, or also, it's like you want to get people that actually spent their time hunting and not have a whole bunch of other reporting capabilities or responsibilities, or that keep them from actually doing that job, right? This is not. I think that's really key about that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and collaborate. You need to collaborate with your security operations, with your incident response team, your threat monitoring people, threat intel. I mean, it's really collaboration exercise, I would say. So but it's you need to focus on hunting and not.
Yeah, it's the tribal knowledge needs to be shared, the understanding of the networks. Yeah. So good. Yeah. Hey, we've been talking for a really long time, and I'm enjoying myself. But I want to get to like one more question that I care about a lot, which is, having spent a lot of time in technology, I feel like a lot of people aren't sufficiently aware of cybersecurity, and just right, like, and we see this, right, like a lot of compromises are invited in by the sort of the casual user that's just not up there. How do you feel? You feel that's getting better? You think the average technology user is getting more aware of cybersecurity, or you think this it's as bad as it ever was?
I wish I would say, but I don't believe that the average user of technology is sufficiently versed in cybersecurity. I think aspects like education itself. I mean, many people never heard about cyber. They know about phishing. They know about your mobile can be sort of compromised, but they don't really know about cybersecurity. The other thing is a lot of technology around. When you need to follow sometimes the best practices in cybersecurity, just to harden your password in your mobile, it's difficult for many people to do that, which is about a complexity as well of the technology itself. And at the end of the day, which is something I think, especially from the from my point of view here in Spain, awareness itself, right? So there's a lack of awareness yet. Though I had to say that the local entities, the governments, the European Union, there are a lot of investments in awareness, because again, like I was saying, on the small companies, when you have some budget, the best way to distribute the budget sometimes is invest in awareness, making people aware that what are the trends, what are the vulnerable spaces in your day-to-day technology, and even in your company managing your IT ops, for instance. This is something which is critical. Yeah,
no, that's I tend to agree with that. Sort of what I see around me. So look, as we're starting to come towards the end, is there any other thoughts or things you'd like to share with the viewers of Crypto Convos?
No, then we touch base on a lot of really important topics. From what is the different trends in cyber, about regulatory aspects as well, about security operations, what is hunting, what is the different aspects from the point of view of the user. So I was very happy to join the conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Ricardo, for joining us here. I'm actually looking forward to being back on your turf in Madrid someday really soon. So thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for all the viewers for coming once more, and I look forward to seeing all of you again on the next episode of Crypto Convos. Thank you so much.
Take care.